third class of Life 101, and this is Adama thanking you for present in this now moment of eternity. Life 101 is intended to be inspirational, just as everything that I do is intended to be inspirational, but it's intended to provide us with an opportunity to look at some of the things that we should have been taught, and had we been given those things, then we would be much further along in our own progression as mothers and fathers and daughters and sons and granddaughters and grandsons and all of who we really are, and also to give us perspective on as to who we really are. Identity theft occurred thousands of years ago, and it has nothing to do with our social security numbers and our bank account information and all of that. Identity theft has taken place in our no longer remembering that we are each these living, loving, intelligent, potent, and immortal points of an absolute and supreme presence, whose presence is absolute and supreme. It is that presence and intelligence that animates all worlds, all realms. It is that which is the intelligence of the sun, the planets, the galaxies, the Milky Way, the cosmic. It is beginningless and endless. It is infinite and eternal, and its intelligence is that which animates every atom and every cell of our own being, so that in truth we are already absolutely divine. In truth we are always in sacred space. In truth we are on this planet, Mother Earth, which is already in heaven, floating throughout the spirit worlds. In truth we dwell in the presence of that absolute and supreme presence, who is always present, never absent, always pervasive, filling all spaces. There is no vacancy, no vacuum anywhere, but the reality of how we live our lives does not necessarily reflect the absolute truth of what is, which is why I am here to remind us, to give us a little bit more to be thankful for, to allow us to have an opening and clarification as to who we are, why we are, what we are, and what will give us leverage in this now moment for being able to be fully remembered in the light and the truth of who we are as these living, loving, intelligent, potent, and immortal points of that absolute and supreme presence. That presence is so often referred to as God, but we have been consciously and unconsciously confused and confounded as to who and what God is, so that we do not necessarily think of the spirits that dwell in the body temples as the Spirit of God. And so therefore many of us are not thinking as highly of ourselves as we should. We're not thinking as highly of anybody else as we should. We are not acknowledging the presence of the absolute as that which is completely present. For if we really took the time to consider that everywhere that we are, with whomever we're with, whatever it is we're doing, whatever it is we're speaking, whatever it is we're feeling and whatnot, it is all done so in the presence of that presence that you all refer to as God. And so if we were highly attuned to being in the presence of God, would we do and be the way that we do and be? Would things be a little different? Would we be more conscientious? Would we be more caring? To be correct, to be more kind, to be more generous, to be more loving, to be more godly. And these are the things that will give us leverage, is when we are that conscientious, when we are that caring, when circumstances and situations do not sway us emotionally so that we act bad and we act nasty when we're insecure and we feel as though there is something wrong somewhere, that we didn't get what we want, we didn't get it the way we wanted, and so we act out. We have temper tantrums like children who've been denied their drug of choice. Now and later is hot fries or whatever those chemical stimulants that you give your children are, that have them acting out when they don't get their way. We're in a now moment that requires us to take much time to be very conscientious with each and every breath we take and every beat of our hearts, to be very considering as to who we are, what we are, why we are, because there are those who do not really want us to ever awaken, to be reawakened, to realize who we are, to have that realization so that we are intense about actualizing or being truly harmonized in the integrity, the ethic, the morality, the virtues of character that are consistent with who we are as the children of that presence that you all refer to as God. We're in a now moment where we have governments that are corrupt, that are destined to be toppled, continents that are having their challenges, whether it's through the cyclones, the floods, the fires, the freezing, the rain. We are in that heavily prophesied time of the end, but it's not the end of life, and it's not the end of the earth, but it is the end of the foolishness. It's the end of the wickedness. It's the end of that thing that we call the world, which is the mental environment that we dwell in, so that we no longer apply ourselves to illusion and delusion, thinking that our prosperity, that our wealth can be generated by what we do outside our homes, how we put our children to the side, where we go and labor and work and barter our time for paper money, and then take that paper and buy products that undermine our own life current. We're in a now moment where light, love, wisdom, truth are the only triumph that is available if you shall be successful in your living. It doesn't matter what you apply yourself to in terms of what it is you're doing. The reality of our resurrection looks more like the enhanced quality and substantiation of our being, so that wherever we are completely centered in the reality of being present in the presence of that absolute and supreme presence, whose presence is all there is as existence itself. And that there is no fear that dwells with us as a result of us being completely secured, completely assured, completely harmonized in the laws that govern our lives. And that's what this class is about. It's about the laws that govern our lives. It's about understanding that all sickness, illness, disease, despair, degradation, discontent, dissatisfaction, deprivation, starvation, war, violation, annihilation, molestation, rape, all of this sickness of arteriosclerosis, our obesity, all of these things that we are dealing with are completely consistent with being in violation of the laws that govern life. And you can be cured and healed of any situation, no matter how dire it looks, whether it's lack, whether it's thinking that you'll be evicted, whether it's sickness or illness. I don't care what it may be called. The issue is that when you are ready to admit your errors, and when you are ready to be corrected and be correct, and to be right, to be realigned with the integrity of the truth of yourself, then that's when your healing really begins to happen. But it will not happen if you do not make the commitments for it, if you do not care to be in light and in law, in truth, in happiness, in laughter, in delight, in joy, in enjoyment, because there is only one purpose in existence, and that is to be purposed in existence as a being who loves its life, exalts its life, who realizes the value and the blessedness of being a living, loving, intelligent, potent, and immortal point of that absolute and supreme presence. And you are being consistent in your adoration, your adulation, your gratitude and expression of care and kindness, courtesy and consideration, respect and honor. This is the way that we truly worship. It's not what we do on Sunday from 8 to 11 that constitutes our worship. Our worship is constituted by every thought that we think, and every beat of our heart, and everything that we consume, and how we be with anybody and everybody, particularly when there's nobody there. How you be with yourself is the true determination of the reality of how well you care to be in your thanksgiving, in your blessedness, in your delight, so that circumstances and situations don't jerk you around. You are not really in a vibration where temporal things can sway your consistent attitude of gratitude and thanksgiving for the absolute reality and the eternal reality. And so we're in a now moment where I'm encouraging you, because there are a lot of people who are saying a lot of things, and it's kind of like there's a rush in a sense where there are those who are really, really busy creating all manners of products, videos, DVDs, tapes, programs and whatnot to help reprogram people's mindsets, to help people get beyond the negative programming of their upbringing and whatnot, to get beyond the blockages that have been set in your tissues and in your cells as a result of all of the programming that you've received, the miseducation, the religious training, the socialization, all of the things that have you considering all of your limitations before you consider God, to consider what you don't have before you really count the blessings of all that you do have, that have you in a position where you don't care to be very considerate and respectful of your body temple, and are consistently acknowledging that the way that you consume, the way that you feed, the way that you eat is another way